Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indie Comics Explained. And again, today I brought yet another fantastic guest. But before we get to that, please like, subscribe, share out the show. Check out the Indiegogo of the Oswald Chronicles that I have currently on Indemand. And our guest, he also has a Kickstarter running. It's going to be in the show notes. Fantastic looking book. I'm really excited. It's the first time I've ever seen it. So I think we have an opportunity here to experience another fantastic book. And without further ado, let's bring on our guest. Hey, what's up, Brian?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm good. All right. So, Brian, let's get right into it, right?
All right.
So I'm going to ask you, I don't know. For me, it's one of these things. This is my typical question because this is one of the questions that I actually am very fascinated by because everybody has a different answer for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a time when it was little Brian, right? Little Brian was running around, grabbing comics, wherever he got them from, right? And then that's how we all started. We all started with, getting those comics from whomever or wherever, right? But there was a specific comic that you got at some point and you said, you know what? I want to do that. I want to do that because of this. What was that comic for you?
I think there were definitely many leading up to this, but I think the moment where it really hit me was a little later in life. Was when I was a teenager, and I read Batman Year One by Frank Miller. I've always been a huge Batman nerd, as you can see, and also here. So and I've always just, I don't know, I've been fascinated by the character, and when I read that book, and I had read that book, and then I also, at the same time, it was about the same time that the Daredevil movie came out with Ben Affleck, and on the special features, they had a bunch of creators talking about the process and their time with the character and working on the book, and Frank Miller has a segment in that talking about his creative process and things like that. So it was kind of like I was reading this book, and then I immediately watched that. I don't really remember what came first,
Right?
but it was like, that's it. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but that's it. So it was Batman Year One that really kind of where I came to that conclusion. I think the death of Superman, though, was actually probably the first comic that really struck me. When it came out, I was a kid, and I mean, I went full hardcore nerd at the age of 7 or 8. I was recording my own audiobooks with the death of Superman and stuff like that. So that's kind of where that really began, and then but Batman Year One was that book. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, cool. So, when it comes down to are you I know you're a writer and you're an artist and you created your own property, but are you traditionally trained or are you self-taught?
Mostly self-taught. I took art classes and things like that in high school and college, and mostly they all yelled at me because I drew things that were they're too comic booky, too cartoony. That kind of stuff. And so I do have some training on a very basic level with fine art, traditional art type stuff. But other than that, I'm mostly just self-taught. Copying comics all my life, learning how to draw through that, getting the how to draw comics the Marvel way, that book, and a few others like it. So things like that mostly.
Yes, the book that should be renamed John Buscema's.
Exactly.
Drawing comics the Marvel way.
Yes.
Because, last I checked, I never saw Stan Lee ever draw a comic.
No. That I don't think that ever happened, nor should it, maybe.
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
But
it's just a little pet peeve of mine. But, when it comes down to your process of you creating a comic, obviously you come up with a concept at some point, but that concept, how does it come out to you? Because you're also an artist. So, I mean, does it come out as you're just sitting down doodling and and you doodle some random thing. You're like, yeah, I could do that. Or is it you're in the shower, right? And you're staring off into space.
Yes.
And, what's your process for that?
Both. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But mostly it's so funny. People are like, where do you get your inspiration? Just writing and ideas. 85 to 90% of the time, it's in the shower.
Mm.
I get out of the shower and I run to my laptop or a tablet, and I just I scribble something down, jot some notes down, and then from that, and I think because of that, I view myself as a writer first, because that's how my brain works. It just so happens I can draw, so and I love drawing. But I think the most fun that I have is dreaming everything up, taking notes, writing, creating worlds, and it's like a big puzzle. I love it. But yeah, so I think that's my process. It's actually kind of funny. A lot of people who do both, draw and write. A lot of people I've talked to that, they don't really use scripts per se. I do. I actually write out my script as if I were sending it to an artist. And a lot of that is because I get everything out in that format. And then when I go, I send it off to my editors, and then they send it back to me much better. and then I sit down to draw it, and I have all my descriptions, all my notes in the script. And it just helps me remember everything. And I also, that translates into thumbnails and plotting out pages. I usually do that before I'll jump on my drawing tablet and start seriously getting to work. But yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, when you actually so obviously you say you write out your script, right? Do you write a firm script? Like, are you writing like a DC style firm script where it's just like, scene 1, panel 1, 3/4 worm's eye? You're doing that whole thing? You're not even giving yourself any latitude.
No, it's so funny because like people have seen my scripts, they're like, but you just draw it. And I'm like, I know. And it makes no sense, but that's just how my brain works. Is I put on my writer hat, I do the writing, I take it off, I put my artist hat on, and I'm like, okay, what did this awful writer send me? What do I have to do now? And many times I've always blamed, like if I'm sitting there, I hate drawing. I used to actually got a lot better now than I used to be, but I used to hate drawing like cars and things like that. And there just came a time in the script where there had to be cars, there had to be things there. And I remember drawing it, just laughing to myself, thinking, I hate this writer who has made me do this. But no, yeah, I do all the format is, panel 1, dialogue, this character dialogue, description of the, it's the, the close shot or whatever it is. A lot of it's also I use like screenplay, language as well. So yeah, but yeah, that's
okay. That's cool. That's cool. Now, when you're actually formulating your scripts, are you sitting there? Are you, they have the terms a pantser or a plotter, right? So do you sit there with like little post-it notes and you got string and you're figuring out, how the crime has been put together, or you do you just attack the page? You're like, screw it, whatever comes out, and I'll figure it out later.
Oh man, I am a conspiracy theorist when it comes to writing my stuff, dude. I've got an ongoing Google Doc of all the notes for memoirs, and whenever I go to write my scripts, I utilize my notes heavily. So I've got all my plots pointed out. Most of the time, I know exactly what. I mean, right now, the series is lengthy, and I've got all the major plot points figured out. So I know exactly how it's going to end. I know, but I do leave room for some fun. When I'm writing it, it's not a hard, like every single thing I take a note on has to happen this way. And those are guidelines, and a lot of them I do keep. But if the story begins to write itself a little bit, I let that happen, and I see if it works. And then if it works with what I've written for the next, 10 issues, what the plot is eventually, I'll run with it if I think it's better. So it's a give and take, but ultimately, I do know, I have all the Post-it notes with the string and all that stuff. I've got a lot of it figured out, and that's just I'm more comfortable writing that way, I guess.
Gotcha. So you give the writer latitude, but that damn artist, forget that guy.
Oh no, he gets no say, no say whatsoever. He'll get
Uh,
some say in page layout. You know, if I
right.
may, you know, yeah, but as far as the plot goes, no, it's all me, the writer guy.
Mhm. Gotcha. That's awesome. So now, um, here's a question I just started. I just started using it. I've heard a variation on this question on somebody else's show, and I've moved it around a little bit
Okay.
to make it a little bit more my own. So, what is the part of the process that you dread the most?
Mm. It depends.
Mm,
Honestly, it depends on the issue. It depends on what, you know. There are some. My goodness, there are some issues that I have written that are so much fun to write. And then
mm,
when I get down to the line art, I'm like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to do this, you know. Or the
mm,
coloring, you know, coloring. I've kind of just taught myself how to do that, and so it just, I guess it just depends. Some days, some pages, I fall in love with the art, and they weren't that much
mm,
fun to write, you know. And then sometimes it's the coloring. I don't think I've ever not had fun writing.
mm.
Um, so I think I've never dreaded that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, usually there are different aspects. Usually it's something that's tedious. You know, if
Mm,
it's like if it's just a regular like conversation between two people,
mm,
and we've got to, you know, I've got to somehow discover a new interesting way to do the same panel that I've done in the last, you know,
right.
3 pages, then because it's you know, dialogue driven in that,
Mm,
in this particular scene. And so that I think can be, you know, times where I'm like, "Ugh, I'm not really having that much fun, but I got to do it anyway." It just feels like a job at that point. And
mm,
you know, sometimes you get that way. You just got to charge through it. I don't think I've ever dreaded anything. When I first started,
right.
I hated lettering, and it's because I didn't know how to do it. You know,
Mm,
I didn't get it. I was like, I don't know how this works. I've never tried this before. And eventually I got the hang of it. And, you know, I studied it and learned it, and I'm still
mm,
learning.
right.
But I think it's funny if you see like early on the first couple issues, you can tell there were some odd lettering choices. It's because I didn't know what I was doing,
Mm,
to be quite honest with you. You know, and now I
yeah.
do. But then it was a learning process. So I think there were moments where I definitely dreaded that. You know, trying to figure out where to capitalize an I and where
Right.
not to. That was the part where I got confused, and I was like, oh, and then I'd realize at 5 pages in that I was doing the wrong thing, and I'd have to go back and
Mm,
redo everything. Um, but yeah, I can say with this issue that I'm working on with the Kickstarters for, there haven't been any moments where I've really been, you know, oh my gosh, I wish we could just move on to the next thing. I've actually enjoyed this issue quite a bit, all
mm.
the way through. It's been great.
Now, you hand lettering everything, or you computer lettering?
A computer.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Now, your pages, are you like old school traditional pen and paper, or are you using like something to like a Wacom tablet?
I'm using a Huion tablet,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. It's great. I will plot my pages out um, on pen and ink. I actually have, or pen and paper. I actually have it
Mm-hmm.
here, so I'll just, you know, really old school,
Right.
just put a
Right.
bunch of pages together, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and
Right.
staple them and plot them out that way. And then I'll usually, I do most of it just digitally. I've
Okay.
found that it provides a lot more freedom. I'm not as
Mm.
worried about messing anything up, and
Right.
I can try a lot more things without any, you know, consequences. The problem
Mm.
is you don't have an original page,
Right.
and that's the downside. Because I started off the series, the first 2.5 issues were
Mm.
it was all pencil, ink, paper, you know, the big comic
Yep.
paper, and
Mm.
I loved it. And then I would color digitally, and I would, you know, I ended up re-inking everything digitally.
Right.
Um, but now I've just moved strictly to digital art for the most part.
Mm. Now, what was the choice behind it? Like, did you just find it was more comfortable on the computer doing everything there?
Uh, actually, it's funny. My wife, which I should say, does she handles a lot of the business side of the comic. So she and I are very much a team. I'm just the creative side, and she does, because when it comes to business, when it comes to actually like putting the comic out there and I'm an idiot. I couldn't figure it out, and she helped me, and now I'm pretty decent. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there as well. Give her the props that she absolutely deserves. She is the reason I ended up moving to a digital creative process. I fought her tooth and nail. It's like, no, like I've got all the paper, I've got this down, I'm getting better. I want to keep doing this. And then she just, threw the wild card out there and bought me a tablet for Christmas one year. And she was like, now you have to do it, or, that shows that you don't love me. No, she didn't say that, but it was
emotional blackmail.
Right. It was more like, I got you this for Christmas, so here you go. And I did it, and I fell in love. It was very kicking and screaming until I actually sat down and did it. And I found out that, I took to it very quickly. And I love it. I enjoy it a lot. I think I think for me, it's a good medium. I will still sit there and just watch videos of people who draw, traditional medium, and my goodness, they're fantastic. They fascinate me, because I feel like because of the digital tools and things like that I have, I've been able to do a lot more. That actually, when I go back and do traditional medium, it has improved. I've improved my craft. Yeah, because I felt that freedom to be able to just do this without worrying about messing up, and it has been able to translate to traditional medium when I do commissions and prints and things like that.
Right. Oh, no, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, that's awesome. Now, your book, Memoirs of an Angel, you're up to what, issue 6?
Yes, this is issue 6 that we're doing for the Kickstarter right now.
Okay, because I mean, we're new to one another, and and I mean, one of the reasons I do this show is to discover new people and discover new books, and I mean, because I looked at it and I was like, oh, this looks actually really good, No, I mean, seriously, it looks really good. It looks really interesting. It's called Memoirs of an Angel. Now, why that title?
It was the whole memoir started over 15 years ago for me, and it was I saw Blade 2 in theaters, and I walked out, and like for the next week I was like, man, what if this was that we took a character, essentially I created a character who was Blade, but he was he was half angel and he fought demons. It was very much a knockoff of the Blade character. That's not what Memoirs is at all. But that's where it started, and the whole point of the Memoirs title was, it's essentially, it was him or an angel that was close to him who was telling this tale. So it was this angel's memoir of this is what happened with this character, and the story completely changed, completely. It's nothing like that now, but the title stuck because that idea is still in play. There is a narrator to the story. He's an angel who's named, well, I don't want to call him an angel per se. He is a heavenly creature, and he is named Artemis, and he is telling this story. So that theme stuck, and that's why the title, was that.
Okay, that's cool. Now, you're up to issue 6. Now, what type of length are you looking at for this series? Like you just said, you got multiple, issues in mind. Like, what type, like how deep do you think this is gonna get?
Deep. It's one of those deals where I will be creating this thing. Robin and I, my wife's name is Robin. She and I have discussed, if worst case scenario happens, everyone stops buying the book, whatever. I'll still make it. I'll do it, for free as a webcomic, because it means that much to me. But as far as the length of it, it does have an ending. I'm not going to just create it as long as people are buying it. Like, I have, this story to tell. Now I may do, it's a very big possibility. It's a big world. There could be spinoffs. I'm not really thinking about that stuff right now because I'm focused
Right.
on this thing. But the format is 4 books, 3 volumes per book.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Mhm.
So right now we're on book 1, and we
Right.
did volume 1. I'm on volume 2, and then we're going to do volume 3, and that will conclude, that book or act essentially.
Mhm.
And then there will be 3 more with 3 different volumes apiece. And it's lengthy. It's very
Mhm.
lengthy. It when it first started off, it wasn't that long, and then the story that I had just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I actually had to shorten it.
Right.
It was too long. I was like, I'm gonna be 72 and writing this thing still. Like this
Mhm.
isn't, you can't, that's not sustainable. I can't do that.
Right.
So no, and even now it's still very long, but I do
Mhm.
have, I have the trajectory, and I've starting next year, we're actually moving towards a quarterly book format.
Right.
So yeah, it's so yeah, it's pretty long, but that's what we're looking at for now.
So up to this point, what type of schedule have you been keeping? Have you been doing like twice a year, once a year, that sort of thing?
So far we've been doing once a year. 2 years ago,
Mm.
we did our first Kickstarter, and that was for the first volume. So it was the first 4 issues all
Right.
together. I had put out a couple of the first 3 I put out in black and white,
Mm.
just to kind of cut my teeth in creating comics. I really didn't know a whole lot about the industry. I didn't know how to do it, and so I just learned as I did it.
Right.
And then I got comfortable with digital, and I got comfortable with coloring
Mm.
digitally, and I decided to go back and redo the first 3,
Right.
ink it digitally, color it, and then do the 4th one completely digitally, and then put that out as a trade, and that'd be the first Kickstarter that we do.
Mm.
And then the next year we did issue 5, which was the follow up, and I I had intended on doing a couple Kickstarters this year, and then 2020 happened, so got a little bit. We many things were delayed. We had to kind of refocus a couple things and adjust, and so I got issue 6, done. I'm about 6 pages away from finishing the issue. It'll be done by the time the Kickstarter is done, and then starting next year, um, I've got myself on a schedule where I'm able to complete an issue in
Mm.
about 3 months, and then we'll pump them out that way.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's ambitious. I like that. Yeah. With my own title, the Oswald Chronicles, or the other one I do with my wife, Tall Tales. Tall Tales, the first arc is 20 issues,
Hmm.
and the second one is going to be 8 issues, and the third and final arc. I was like, yeah, we're gonna make it 30 issues. Yeah, no, it's gonna be 12. So yeah,
Yeah.
and then the Oswald Chronicles, I'm 1,000 pages into it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's a whole nother level of insanity. That I might be looking another 1,500 pages
Yeah.
to
Jeez,
to
that's
complete.
great.
Yeah, yeah,
See,
yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, honestly, I
Hmm.
get it. It's a lot, but
Hmm.
I love comics that do that. I love
Right,
comics that do that and have an ending.
right,
Like
yes, because that would be
that's the big thing. Because I'm like, I don't want a comic that's just never gonna end.
Mhm.
We're literally just pumping stuff out just
Yeah.
because people are buying it. And you get good stories. You can get new creative, minds on it, and see
Hmm.
some cool things happen. But I mean, there's a reason I stopped reading DC and Marvel comics a while ago. Yeah, I just
The superhero soap opera.
yeah, it just keeps
That's.
going. I'm like, I want a story that
Mhm.
has a good ending, and then I
Mhm.
can go to something else by those creators.
Yeah.
Like that's great. But I love the long drawn out stuff because I feel like when it's written well, when it's done well,
Mhm.
it's so much more satisfying. But
Yeah.
it does take a lot more time. So that's just the downside. It's in our culture we love things right now, quick,
Mhm.
and those mini series are so nice to
Yeah.
have because it's in a year I can or
Get
less
six
I can
issues.
get all the whole story and it's great. Yeah, it just but it takes some time, but I think it's worth it.
Oh no, it definitely is. It definitely is. So I mean, like, so how many issues do you think the whole series is gonna be? I mean, do you have a
Oh.
number in mind? I
Yeah, I
mean,
think the last time I checked it out, or I did the math, which is not my strong suit.
mm,
I think the last time I looked, I think it was close to 60 issues
okay, okay,
total.
that's not that. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah,
yeah,
because I'm figuring Oswald is probably gonna tap out around 75 issues.
yeah, yeah. It's,
You know, yeah, yeah. I mean, no, those are yeah, because I was like, that Dave Sim number 300 books, and you're just like,
oh,
Jesus, yeah, man,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. When when
that's
when Todd McFarlane, announced issue 300 of Spawn, I was like, good
mm,
grief, man, you've been telling the same story for 20 plus years. and
yeah,
uh and that's great, like, hey, I love Spawn, it's a great character, it's just that's not my thing.
yeah,
I don't think I could ever see myself doing that. I think if there's one thing that I would potentially compare this plan that I have to would
mm,
be Hellboy,
right,
where he has the main Hellboy. Mike Mignola had this the Hellboy story, and then he has
mm-hmm.
BPRD. He had Witchfinder, all the other things that are
Abe
that
Sapien, yep,
exactly. Yeah, he had the spinoffs. I could see memoirs being something like that,
mm,
but he had an ending for Hellboy.
yep,
And it took him a while, but he got there, and he told a
mm,
fantastic story.
yeah,
And I think that's I guess comparable to what I'm trying to do.
yeah. Well, what's funny for me is I actually like the BPRD stuff better.
Oh, dude, I've actually just started reading BPRD,
Uh,
and I agree with you almost. I love Hellboy
yeah, I
so
love Hellboy.
much. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm on volume 4, I think. I'm at the
Mm-hmm.
very beginning, volume
Right,
4 of the Plague of Frogs.
right,
I think
yeah.
that's what it's called.
I think
Uh,
that's it. Yeah.
yeah, it's fascinating. I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
wish Hellboy was in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
like, I
exactly.
get why, because I'm actually reading them in a chronological order. I found a
Mm-hmm.
big old list where
Yep.
you can read, Hellboy that leads into all its other spinoffs, and it's one big fun story. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
loving that process. But I've
Yeah,
found BPRD is fantastic.
yeah.
I'm
I
really
love those
enjoying it.
books.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Enough from Mike Mignola. That guy got money. um. So with Memoirs of an Angel, like, what's the crux of the story? So I mean, what's going on there?
So the main focus is on a character. He's a witch hunter,
Mm,
and he's at the end of his rope. And he in the first issue we're introduced to him as an adult, and he's on this mission that he's been on for 6 years, um, to chase after this witch named Etrulia, who something has happened. I don't want to spoil it.
no.
Something has happened in his past with her that
Mm,
wrecked his life.
mm,
And so he is after her just to kill her. He doesn't care if he dies in the process. Doesn't matter. He's been searching for her for 6 years and will end her. At
mm,
the end of the first issue, he finds her. He finds her village. He's going to kill her. It does not end so great for him in the
mm,
first issue. And
mm,
so what we do from there is we actually travel back in time,
right.
25 years prior, and we start introducing the spiritual characters. So you've got the angels, the demons, who eventually you will see how they play into everything,
Mm,
and how we, will eventually come back around to picking up where issue 1 left off, at the beginning of volume 3. So. So it's about Jonathan. It's about him. The witch hunter who is on this path, this destructive path, and it's about how beings infinite and finite surround him and are actually very much a part of his life as he discovers his true purpose,
mm.
um, moving forward. So,
Gotcha. All right.
yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And obviously you have a much larger story that's going on that goes well
Yes.
beyond. Okay, yes,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that's what I figured.
This is the tip. That's the very
Right.
tip of the iceberg, and then as we go
Mm,
through that, the world just begins to continue to open up as we go through each volume.
all right. Cool. That sounds good. Well, So it's funny. I usually do these things in reverse. I usually
Okay.
like to talk about business first, and then the book, and then the creative. But we talked about the creative, so now we're going to talk about the business.
All
So
right.
now, so you're using Kickstarter.
Mhm.
Now, how's that been treating you? How do you feel about that?
Very well. I think we actually a couple years ago, well, actually 3 years ago now, when we
Mm,
started, when we decided, hey, next year we're going to do
mm,
a Kickstarter. We started researching, um, just trying to pull anything we could to create a successful Kickstarter. What does that look like? Are there any,
mm,
who can we model after? Who can help us, figure out
right.
the odds and ends of what this looks like? And we stumbled across a really helpful podcast that also offers workshops and things like that. It's called Comics Launch.
Hmm.
And I don't know if are you familiar with that at all?
I know that guy.
Yeah. Well, Tyler, hey,
Uh,
Tyler's been very helpful with us.
uh,
We've and it really like he definitely like I'm definitely not saying do comics lunch and you won't have to it's going to
right. Yeah.
magically happen. That's bull
No.
crap. You've got to
Yeah.
put in so much work.
Yeah. It's a
And
lot of work.
yeah, and but he offers. I think the podcast offers a lot of really helpful tips, things to
Hmm.
to to walk through. And the big emphasis, and I completely agree with this. The big emphasis is building a fan base.
Right.
Don't depend on Kickstarter to do that for you because it won't. It's not meant for that. It's meant for you to come with your fan base and say, "Hey, here it is. Go for
Hmm.
it." You
Right.
might get a few people that find out about it from Kickstarter, but don't depend on it. And we
Hmm.
didn't. I spent. Let's see. We launched our first Kickstarter in 2018,
Hmm.
and I mean from 2016 to then, I was building a fan base.
Right.
So it was putting a lot of work in there, um, and I really I have to attribute a lot of all of the success. Really, I mean, yes, we put the work in, but a lot of it is the just people that just keep showing up,
Right.
and backing us, which
Hmm.
I genuinely I'm so thankful for them because you get people like at like the People's Choice Awards and things like that. They're like, if it weren't
Hmm.
for you, I wouldn't be standing up here. But it's true. It's
Hmm.
very true. If it weren't for
Yeah.
them, if they didn't show up and throw money at us to create this thing, it wouldn't. Well, it would be created. Just we wouldn't be getting any kind of money for it, and
Right.
not being able to pour back into it. But Kickstarter's been great. It provides a way to do things, without any kind of gatekeeper, without any kind of,
Hmm.
um, big publishing company telling you what you can and can't do. And it provides a way where you can interact directly with your customers.
Yeah.
And it builds more of a community, I think,
Hmm.
in that respect, which I really appreciate a lot.
Now you are you using a like a mailing list?
Yes,
Okay.
I have a mailing list, brianrodman.com. You can go and
Mm,
subscribe there if you'd like. And I send this year it's been every 2 months.
mm,
But because we haven't had Comic Cons and different things like
right.
that, so I didn't want to just spam people's emails. So until I didn't really send anything until I had something to say.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I have a mailing list. I keep up with that very often. Very
Mm,
active on Facebook and Instagram. That's I think where I get Facebook is where I get the majority of interaction with people
mm.
about the book for sure.
All right, cool. Now, when it comes down to the book itself, like obviously, are you doing the dreaded word? Are you doing floppies? I mean, are you just doing regular, saddle stitch stapled books, or are you doing like trades? What's that? What are you doing?
Yeah, so we're doing a more traditional format. We're doing each Kickstarter. So well, we started off with a trade, but that was mostly
Mhm.
just to get things kickstarted.
Right.
um, and now we're moving into an individual floppy. Every
Mhm.
every issue we release will be that,
Right.
leading up to a trade paperback,
Mhm.
um, which will be the next one. We'll probably do something fancy, trying for we'll probably try for a hardback
Mhm.
edition, things like that.
Right.
And just like any kind of trade paperback, there's always extra goodies in there. So
Mhm.
if you got all the floppies, you're still not going to get the art. I have an essay. I have a guy. One of our editors is doing essays at the end of every trade
Mm.
about different topics. And so he'll write that. We've got, I put my sketches in there. We got introduction, like all the bells and whistles that you would have on a trade. That's
Right.
what separates it from doing the individuals. But yeah, we're putting out floppies. We're putting out floppies, as we go along.
Right. Right. Okay. No, that's cool. No, I mean, it's funny when my first two Kickstarter were for 2 hardcover books.
Mhm.
Okay, and no, my first 3. Yeah, it was a hardcover, an omnibus, and then another hardcover. And I discovered at that point that I had made a mistake. I was wrong. Because I use I guess Lost Lead, the Lost Lead system, where it's now I just put out individual comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually after I've run through the comics, then I put out the trade.
Gotcha.
And the reason being is because I mean, I do one book where my wife is the illustrator and I'm the writer, and then I do another book where I write, but I pay someone to write, where I pay someone to illustrate it. And when you have to pay someone to illustrate something, you got to generate revenue. So yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. So I use the individual comics to generate enough revenue to pay her, and then eventually it'll come out in trade.
Yeah.
And then it may come out again in color, because that's one of the other things because it's all black and white right now. And then it'll eventually hopefully come out in color, and then I'll do trade color, and hopefully my fans will be like, "You son of a bitch, you used me." Since you made me buy it twice.
Yeah, I've always thought that's fascinating, and like I do it too, right? Like I always feel like I'm being duped, because like I'm like, I already have these, but I want this, and because I mean honestly, I'm a trade guy, or I was a trade paperback guy, almost exclusively. When when we were talking like DC Marvel books and things like that. But since I've gotten into the indie creator community, and I'm half these people are my friends, that I've met at Comic Cons and all this kind of stuff. Like I mean, in the indie world, sometimes you won't even get a trade paperback.
Right. This is very true.
But a lot of times, if you wait for a trade paperback, you could be waiting a pretty long time. I mean, it could be 5-6 years before you even see a trade paperback. So a lot of it is you want to support them, and then at the same time you want to know what's going to happen. Like if I don't really want to wait 5 or 6 years to find out what happens next. So I think that in the indie circle, individuals, unless you can, because like I have a friend of mine, Kaylin Smith, who does a series called For Goodness Sake. She's just pumping out trades. That's all she's doing, but she's doing it like every 8 months or something.
Gotcha.
Because she's doing that full time, so she's just boom, 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 pumping it out. And if you can do that, go for it.
Exactly. Yeah. But she's the illustrator. She's the writer and illustrator on that. Though.
Yeah, she is.
That's people, artist, writer, people killing me. I gotta hire someone, But yeah, the only thing that I try to do I try to make it unique for my fans is that they're limited edition. So it's limited to 250 copies, and I won't reproduce it in that format again.
Okay. Yeah.
So I won't reproduce it as a black and white comic. You might see it as a color comic. You might see it as a trade. But you won't see it in that particular form again. Yeah. So, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think that's actually really smart. We do that with our rewards now on Kickstarter. We went really hot and heavy with the first Kickstarter when it came to rewards. Like because we ended up doing like I think 4 or 5 stretch goals with the first Kickstarter. Cool. Yeah, it blew up. We were not expecting it at all. I say blew up. I think we topped at like 5,300, something like that, which is still a huge deal for us. We had, we had no idea this was going to happen. And so we kind of pulled out too many stops. So we've got a lot of it merchandise that we're just sitting on. And so what we're doing is, the top tier is people who are new to it that just really want all the cool stuff.
Right.
That's all there for them. But all the
Mm.
prints, all of I do variant covers now for each Kickstarter, for each
Mm.
issue, that are exclusive to Kickstarter. So you won't be
Right.
able to buy them at Comic Cons. You won't be able to buy them anywhere else at any other time. This is
Mm.
it. And usually in the last one, Seth DeMoose did a variant cover for issue 5, and now
Cool.
Caitlin Smith did the variant cover for issue 6.
Mm.
So those both times those sell more than anything else because they are the exclusive
Right.
merchandise. So yeah, I think
Oh, that's
that's
cool.
good.
That's cool. Now, obviously, well, I'm pretty sure you're printing digital as opposed to offset at the moment.
Yes, at the moment
Mm.
we aren't the numbers aren't ready. We're not ready for offset yet.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah. That well, hopefully we'll get there. Soon. That'd be
yes.
great. But
Mhm.
that'd be wonderful. But for now,
Mm.
yeah, it's digital.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. No, because yeah, I mean, unless you want to start sleeping on pallets of books.
Exactly. That's another thing. We don't. We have to we have our good friends. They have a basement. We don't have a basement in our house, so they're
Mm.
letting us store some stuff in their basement and
Right.
tucked away in a corner. Before we actually moved into the house this year, and so
Mm.
we were able to get some stuff from them and shove in my closet over here in the office.
Uh,
But there's still a couple of things in their basement, and no, so we don't have room for
right, right.
for all that stuff right now, for sure.
Yeah, because I can tell you right now from experience, you know, you know, getting 5,000 books delivered to you, that's a thing.
Oh yeah, it's would you remember that movie, the Santa Claus with Tim Allen? It's like that when when the letters get delivered to his house
Right.
in November. He's
Hmm.
like, "What am I gonna do with all this stuff?" I feel like that's what it would be like.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it motivates you to sell stuff quick though.
Oh, I bet. I
Motivates
can't
you.
I can't lay on my bed. I need to sell books.
Exactly. It's like, oh, damn it, let's move this stuff out.
Yeah, it's like
But
the floor isn't lava. The floor is comics. We need to do something. Yeah.
mhm, exactly. So let me see. All right. Well, we've been at this for a little bit now, right?
Mhm.
So we're coming close to the end, but we're not there just yet,
Okay.
right? So still got a few questions for you. But before we move on to those questions, one, is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about?
I think the one thing that I would want to talk about is what inspires the series.
Okay, cool.
Um, I'm a Christian, and I think that is
Mhm.
probably what inspires it the most. Mostly because
Mhm.
as a Christian, I look at other Christian entertainment, and I
Mhm.
don't enjoy it.
Okay.
I think a lot of it is not really well done, and I'm not saying
Mhm.
mine's so much better, but
Right.
I think a big part of this was I wanted to tell people, to share my faith and things like that from a good quality story. Where
Mhm.
I'm not, the message. It's not just you're not just preaching at people or anything like that. There are themes throughout, but it's character driven, it's story driven, and
Mhm.
also it's a different aspect because I love horror, and so this is labeled as a horror fantasy. I tell people it's like Lord of the Rings meets The Exorcist. So
Mhm.
essentially, if you entered into the world, you watch The Exorcist, and you pull back the curtain and you see high fantasy world building happening there.
Right.
That's what this is. That's at least my goal.
Mhm.
And so in that respect, it's I would say, like a lot of people will ask me, like, well, is it a religious book? And I'm like, as much as Lord of the Rings is a religious book, like very much, it is absolutely more, God is in it, things like
Mhm.
that. But it's not the Left Behind series or anything like that.
Mhm.
You know what that is.
Alright.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Don't. But it's
God,
nothing.
why did you mention it? Now I
Well,
gotta know.
if you do, good luck, sir. And so, but it's one of the, like, that means a lot to me. My faith's a big part of me, but at the same
Mm,
time, like, I want, I just, it, it wasn't like I have to share this message with everybody, and I'm gonna,
right.
pretend like I'm gonna essentially cloak it in comic book form, and it's actually like a sermon you would hear, on a Sunday morning, fire and brimstone stuff. No,
Mm,
it's not that at all. But my faith is in it, and I think that is what inspired it the most.
mm,
Um, what the story turned into, because ultimately it's about community. It's about finding your purpose. It's about seeing that there may be something beyond the physical. And how does the supernatural and the physical intertwine, and what happens there. Those are the major themes that work through the Bible, or through the Bible, through my comic. There are biblical themes that work through the comic, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
No, I got you. I understand. No, that's cool, man. That's really awesome. Yeah, because I mean, it's funny in the Oswald Chronicles. I was raised Catholic, right? So I'm recovering. I say that.
Well, hey, I'm Protestant, so you can recover. It's fine.
So so no, I mean, it's a beautiful religion. You understand? But you get into it, and like everybody else, you kind of fall out of it, and then you come back eventually. It's one of those things. But the takeaway from it is that there I have elements in my story where it's just like, okay, yeah, I am dealing with the devil and angels and God and all these things, these moralistic issues where you're just like, oh, okay, well, all right, I guess going to that Sunday school thing really did do something.
Well, and I think ultimately, right, like no matter what your background is, no matter what where you're from, there are common themes that everybody deals with, and at some point we all have to recognize that, and we all have to like. There is a reason there's only 5 or 6 different types of stories, and it's because we all are experiencing the same things. It's just slightly different here and there because we come from different worldviews, we come from different cultures, different things like that. So no, I think at the end of the day, the themes that go through memoirs, that my goal was to bring them the biblical aspect of it. I think there are common themes that everybody can relate to, and that's the point. That's the purpose of memoirs, is to show that.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome, man. That sounds really awesome. All right, now before we get on to my goofy questions, please let everybody know where can they find you, where can they find Brian, where can they find your work, where can they find your Kickstarter, and and anything else.
Yeah, sure. So the easiest way you can find me is go to brianrodman.com. Boom, there you go. It's we have an online shop, and as far as social media, you can find me. Just type in Brian Rodman in the search. You'll see my goofy face with a Batman hat on, and my Kickstarter. The link for the Kickstarter is plastered all over social media. It's in my bio section on Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, I'm brodman_comics with an X because I tried to be fancy, and so the Kickstarter links are all over the place on social media. So yeah, and if you just want to go straight to Kickstarter, you can do that. Type in Memoirs of an Angel in the search, and all 3 campaigns will show up. But the live one is Memoirs of an Angel issue 6. Or number 6, the number sign, or hashtag, as the kiddos say now.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Now, moving on to like I said, my goofy questions.
Oh, goofy questions. Let's do it.
Yes. My first one is if you had the choice of any artist, living or dead, don't worry about budget, that you could get to do a guest cover for you, who would it be?
Oh, I think it's a tie. I've thought about this, and I can't really figure out which one I would want more. It's either going to be Mike Mignola or Bernie Wrightson.
Gotcha.
Yeah, one of those two. I think you can find a lot of Mignola's style in my style as well.
Oh yeah, yeah,
huge inspiration. So to have him be, I guess he would probably win. To have him do it would be a dream come true.
Oh yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. Mignola is incredible.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you got the golden ticket, and the big companies called you up and they said, Brian, take your pick, any group, any character, whomever, wherever, whatever, your thing. Now, yeah, and then and it doesn't matter. It could be Marvel, DC, Image, 2000 AD, whatever.
Okay.
What would you want to do?
I think I'm trying to remember. I don't know who has the rights to this character now. I think it might be Dynamite. Um, I would love to do the Shadow.
Yes.
I would love to tell a story. Just an original, kind of like what Nolan did with Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do that with the Shadow. Just kind of take my own take and keep the foundation there. I love the character. I listened to the old radio shows growing up. I still do now, and I even love the Alec Baldwin movie, if that says something. So, but no, yeah, that would be him. That would be it. I'd love to just play in that world and get a little taste of what it means to create a little bit on that character.
Right. Okay, that's cool. That's interesting. That's a first. That's interesting.
Not a lot of people are thinking of the Shadow these days. So I think he's one of the underrated pulp heroes from the past.
Yeah, the last thing I read with him was I think Matt Wagner. He did Shadow Grendel crossover.
Yeah. I think the last one I read was Shadow. I think it was was it Shadow Zorro maybe, or was that Lone Ranger?
Maybe.
I think that might have been Lone Ranger Zorro. I can't remember. It was Dynamite.
Yeah. For me, it was Matt Wagner. I follow Matt Wagner, so
nice.
If he was doing it, I was like, okay, I'll get it. All right. So now, I got a few comparative questions, and it will, some of them will have the why attached to it, but I'll softball you first, and then we'll work into some of the
Forgive
more,
me if I don't know all of them.
No forgiveness. No.
No, we're not. You're not allowed.
You're not allowed.
It's done. We're hanging up. If that's
exactly, that's it. You're done. No. So, all right, here we'll start off with this. Godzilla or Gamera?
Godzilla, because I'm not. I don't know a whole lot of kaiju stuff. And so, yeah, I'm the most familiar with him. So I've seen all a lot of the movies. I love the new ones. And I heard like a lot of people who love Godzilla did not really like the new ones, and I'm like, that's fine. I mostly because I'm not that deep of a fan. I'll go to the movies and watch monsters blow stuff up, and that's about as deep as I go. So
that's what it's there for. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'd go with Godzilla.
Okay. Captain America or Batman?
Batman.
Okay.
I think for Batman, a lot of people will say, Captain America can have more depth. I've heard that argument before, and I think it could be true. For me, I've always resonated with Batman. Batman '89, Keaton's Batman, was one of the first movies I ever saw in my life. It's one of the first memories I have. Cuddle up with my family on the couch, when I was like 4 years old, watching the VHS, of that movie. And those movies, that and the Batman the Animated Series, that's what got me into comics to begin with. So I have a sentimental, thing with Batman as well. And I think just a lot of really good stories have been told using that character. I think there've been a lot of, you could have probably used any character to tell these stories, but he was the one a lot of people used to talk about really deep, dark, depressing stuff that I think that resonated with me growing up. I've loved the character for years.
Okay, that's cool. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Spock or Data?
Spock.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Spock. Leonard Nimoy. More. Oh, what's the guy's name? Siler. What was his name? The guy who played him in the new ones.
Yes. I don't remember, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. He did a good job. He did fine for what those
Quinto.
Yes, Zachary Quinto. That's his name. He's a fantastic actor. But yeah, no, Leonard Nimoy's Spock, Wrath of Khan. You just don't get any more emotional than the ending of that movie.
Sure. All right. RPGs or video games?
Video games, because I don't have the time for RPGs. Unfortunately, I've tried and I don't these days because of the comic. I feel like I'm writing my own RPG and doing that. But no, video games have always been a wonderful escape for me. So I've gotten back into them recently, and I'm finding that it's helping my 2020 get along very well.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Stan Lee or Jack Kirby?
Jack Kirby.
Okay.
Yeah, respect for Stan Lee, but
Mm-hmm.
I got to go with Jack Kirby, mostly because I find his artwork just beautiful. His stuff's gorgeous, and I think he did. I think he and Stan probably did the same amount of creating. I think obviously Stan gets more of the credit,
Right.
but I think Jack Kirby did stuff on Marvel and DC that just people have tried for many years and could not
Come
replicate it.
close.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings or Star Wars?
Lord of the Rings. Had you asked me that, before Lord of the Rings came out in theaters, because I had never heard of Lord of the Rings actually until I saw the movies, and now I've read the Silmarillion. So it really, yeah. So it really
you got in there.
Oh yeah, in an unhealthy way. So
there you go. Pinhead or Freddy Krueger?
Oh, Freddy Krueger.
Okay.
I feel like he's just more fun.
Well, yeah. It's not a lot of fun there. There's not a lot of room for fun.
Not really.
Pain or pleasure, right? Okay.
At least Freddy's got bad dad jokes. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Todd McFarlane or Arthur Adams?
Todd McFarlane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
It's fine. That's a good question. I think mostly because I as I was a kid, I really the first I guess mature book I got into was Spawn. And so Spawn, where I haven't followed it, I don't know what the story currently is. I followed the first probably 5 or 6 volumes pretty closely, and I followed Todd's. What he and those guys did with Image Comics probably is one of the most fascinating, if not the most fascinating thing that happened in the comic book industry. I think, and so to hear, like, I haven't yet watched his documentary on Sci-Fi yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
I haven't watched it. I plan on it. I've got it queued up. I think it might be the next thing I watch. But I love his story. I think he has. I actually have Spawn issue 1 signed by him.
Nice.
Which is one of my prized possessions. And it just I'm fascinated by the guy's ambition. He was in baseball, and then he hurt himself, and then he just went to comics, and then completely changed the industry. I think it's. Yeah, I think he's a fascinating guy. He does, if he sets his mind to it, he does anything. And I admire that in him. So, and I love his artwork. Okay. His writing isn't all that great all the time, but yeah, but I love his artwork.
Yes. What is it? The Avengers or Justice League?
Oh, it depends on what group of Avengers and what group of I guess you look at your traditional, it's like the ones that made it to the movies. I would I think I'd have to say Justice League. I'm a DC guy, but I love Marvel. I love the Avengers. And so I feel like I'm potentially a minority. I actually love the Zack Snyder stuff, so I'm very excited about the Snyder cut coming out for Justice League, because I was fascinated with his vision. I thought it was really interesting, really different take, and especially on Superman that I actually dug a lot, and I'm very fascinated with what he's going to do. But yeah, I think because DC and Marvel, DC deals a lot with like hardcore, like mythic type stuff. Obviously Thor is in Marvel, but Marvel's more like the streets. Like, it's like Spider-Man, and everybody's in New York City, and it's all based in reality. And DC is like all fictional cities, and it's, you've got the New Gods and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff, I think, like going back to Jack Kirby, that stuff fascinates me more than anything else. But I'm not a DC over Marvel. Like, I can't stand those guys. I love them both. So yeah. So that's so Justice League. All that to say.
Okay. All right, cool. John Byrne or George Perez?
That's a tough one.
Hmm.
Probably George Perez.
Okay.
And I don't really know why.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going to say George Perez.
All right, cool. All right, all right. We'll do a couple of more. We've done a few of these. We'll do a couple more, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right, cool.
Let's see. Um, Frank Miller or Alan Moore?
Oh, why'd you do that to me? Oh man. Ooh. I guess I'd have to say Frank Miller just because of the sentimental reasons, because he was such a pivotal part of me, you know, deciding to create comics and really, you know, was a part of that passion. And I think Sin City is probably one of the coolest comics that has ever been made. But man, Alan Moore's a genius. Like he's, you know, I think he's out there. He's out there, but somewhere out there, he has brought some really amazing stories to comics. And I think, you know, when you look at Swamp Thing, you know, probably Swamp Thing and Watchmen are, I think, his two best works. But
for me, it's Swamp Thing, Miracle Man, and Watchmen.
You know, I've never read Miracle Man.
It's a shame that Marvel's tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think they've done anything like really damaging to it. But you know what I'm waiting for, what I've been waiting. I have all the original issues. I bought them, you know, as they came out.
Oh, cool.
What I want from them is a damn omnibus of just Alan Moore stuff. I think.
Yeah.
You know, the original writer, whatever they want to call him. Right. Yeah, fine. You know, is it that douchebag that did this? Just write. Just give me the damn omnibus. You know, it's like, man, whatever you want to call him, it's fine. Just
right. Yeah.
You know, well, just
a lot of time, from what he always says, it's always like he just credits the artist and that's it. And it's like, well, okay, just do that. You know.
Yeah.
Like you know, he hates comics anyway anymore. So.
Yeah. Well, He's past it. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, let me ask you one more question that I can torture your brain with. Oh, here we go. Here's an easy one. Okay. H.P. Lovecraft or Poe?
Or Poe? Is that what you said?
Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, now you're torturing me again. It's funny. If you look in my living room, we have a big bookshelf up there, and the two of them, the hardback Barnes and Noble collector's editions, are H.P. Lovecraft and all the collective works of Edgar Allan Poe. I think, man, I guess I gotta say Edgar Allan Poe. His poetry alone, I think, makes him stand out more. Lovecraft, again, a genius. Psychotic genius world building machine that just, you know, came up with some of the scariest legends and things like that you could think of, and has influenced myself and countless others. Edgar Allan Poe, there, you know, The Fall of the House of Usher, Pit and the Pendulum, The Raven, you just can't. They're icons in and of themselves, and so I think I gotta go with him.
All right, cool. It's all good. All right, well, Brian, we made it to the end somehow.
Ooh, all right.
So thank you so much. But one more time, please let everybody know where they can find you and find your work.
Sure. BrianRodman.com. Get on Facebook. Type in Brian Rodman. You'll see my mug. Instagram. BRodman_comics with an X. And Kickstarter. I'm on Kickstarter right now. Memoirs of an Angel #6. Is going on until August 20th. And you can find the link to that on all my social media stuff. I've been probably obnoxious to some people because I post about it a lot, but yeah, it's all there.
Yeah, well, the one piece of advice that I heard was from one guy who was advising about how much social media you're using to advertise. It says, well, whatever you're doing, times it by 10.
Right.
So
well, it's because like you pump it out and it's like some of the same people see it, but then you've got people that won't see it till you've posted about it 50 times. So it's
listen,
weird.
What is it? So I found out. Jesus, I've done too many of these shows. I'm so tired. Your friend put us in touch.
Oh, Damien. Yeah.
Right, Damien. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, because I met Damien through Dan Shen.
Okay.
Okay, so I met Damien through him, and then I met you through Damien. But to be honest with you, without that, I would have never seen your book because I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I find interesting. I'm like, wow, making, you make these connections with people you've never seen and books that are really good, and you're like, shit, how am I missing out on this?
Right.
And that's the thing. It's just like, this is what's going on. So yeah, that's the one thing I find is it's always interesting going through this process. But anyway, so we're done. But thank you, people. Please like, subscribe, share. Check out Brian's Kickstarter. It looks really awesome. And go check out the Oswald Chronicles, currently on Indemand on Indiegogo. And I will be talking to you all soon. Have a great night, guys.
See ya.
See ya. So